Tornado emergency for Greensburg at 9:37 p.m. Central Daylight Time. National Weather Service meteorologists and storm spotters were tracking a large and extremely dangerous tornado. This tornado was located 5 miles south of Greensburg, moving north at 20 miles per hour.
This tornado didn't just damage a town. It erased it. On the night of May 4th, 2007, in Greensburg, Kansas, something unimaginable was about to unfold. Greensburg was the kind of place where everyone knew each other. A small, quiet town surrounded by open land, where life moved at a slower pace. There were no signs that this night would be different. No clear warning that within hours, this town would face one of the most powerful tornadoes ever recorded in United States history. But far above the ground, the atmosphere was already shifting. Warm, moist air from the south was rising rapidly, meeting cooler, drier air moving in from above. This collision created instability, a dangerous imbalance in the atmosphere that meteorologists know all too well. It's the kind of setup that can turn an ordinary storm into something destructive. Weather systems began to organize. Clouds started to build. What seemed harmless at first was quietly developing into a powerful supercell thunderstorm. Meteorologists monitoring the situation began issuing warnings. They could see the signs: rotation within the storm, intensifying conditions, a growing threat. But even with all the data, no one could fully predict what was about to happen. As evening turned into night, the storm grew stronger. Lightning lit up the sky in sudden flashes. Thunder rolled across the plains. Winds picked up, and deep within the storm, something began to take shape. Rotation, a slow, powerful spin forming high above the ground. It tightened, it strengthened, and then it dropped. A tornado had formed. At first, it was nearly invisible in the darkness, hidden by rain and night. It moved across the land like a shadow. But this was no ordinary tornado. Within minutes, it intensified rapidly. Winds reached incredible speeds, strong enough to tear buildings apart and lift heavy objects into the air. This tornado would soon be classified as an EF5, the highest rating on the enhanced Fujita scale, the most powerful category a tornado can reach. As it approached Greensburg, sirens began to sound. The warning was clear: take shelter. Immediately, residents rushed to basements, storm shelters, any place that could offer protection. Families gathered together in confined spaces, waiting, listening. Outside, the storm was getting louder. The wind didn't just blow, it roared, a deep, continuous sound, like a freight train passing directly overhead. Debris began to fly. Pieces of wood, metal, glass. Everything caught in the storm became a potential threat. Then came the moment no one could prepare for. The tornado struck Greensburg with overwhelming force. It tore into the town. Buildings were ripped apart instantly. Homes collapsed as if they were made of paper. Entire structures were lifted from their foundations and thrown aside. The power grid failed almost immediately, plunging the town into complete darkness. Only flashes of lightning revealed what was happening. Brief glimpses of destruction, frozen in moments of light. The tornado didn't pass quickly. It stayed, moving slowly, grinding through the town with relentless force. Its path was wide, covering large sections of Greensburg. Nothing in its way remained untouched. Trees were stripped bare, their branches torn away. Vehicles were tossed and crushed. Buildings that had stood for decades were reduced to debris within seconds. Inside their shelters, residents could hear everything: the crashing of walls, the breaking of glass, the violent shaking of the ground beneath them. For many, it felt endless, like time had stopped, and the storm would never leave. Fear filled the silence between the sounds. Uncertainty. No one knew what would be left when it was over. And then, gradually, the sound began to fade. The winds weakened. The roar moved farther away, and eventually, it was gone. Silence returned, but it was not the same silence as before. It was heavier, uncertain. When the people of Greensburg finally emerged from their shelters, what they saw was almost impossible to comprehend. Their town was gone. Nearly 95% of Greensburg had been destroyed. Homes, schools, businesses, all reduced to rubble. Landmarks that once defined the town had disappeared. Streets were unrecognizable. Debris covered everything. The place they had known their entire lives had been transformed in a matter of minutes. Emergency responders arrived quickly, navigating through the wreckage to search for survivors. The scale of destruction made rescue efforts difficult. Roads were blocked. Communication lines were down. But despite the chaos, efforts continued. People were pulled from debris. Medical aid was given. And slowly, the process of recovery began. The Greensburg tornado would go down in history as one of the strongest ever recorded in the United States. But beyond the statistics, it was a human story, a story of loss, but also of resilience. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. The community came together. Neighbors helped neighbors. People who had lost everything began supporting one another. There was grief, but there was also determination. Greensburg refused to disappear. Instead of abandoning the town, its residents chose to rebuild. And not just rebuild, but transform. Greensburg became a symbol of renewal. The town was reconstructed with a focus on sustainability, becoming one of the greenest communities in the United States. Energy-efficient buildings, renewable resources, a new beginning, built from the remains of the old. The tornado that once erased Greensburg had, in a way, reshaped its future. But the memory of that night remains, a reminder of the power of nature and how quickly everything can change. The Greensburg tornado of 2007 was more than just a storm. It was a moment that revealed both the destructive force of the natural world and the strength of the human spirit.